Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Welcome to our August meeting, which is also our one of our all CoC biennial meetings. Just wanted to welcome everyone, and we'll go ahead and start with a land acknowledgement and a mission moment. And I'm going to invite anyone who has a mission moment after I read the land acknowledgement that wants to chime in. Please feel free. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture and appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. The Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness and the Hprs Advisory Council would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina. All right, I would welcome anyone who has a mission moment that they'd like to share with the group.
You know, I would love to share that recently I got a phone call from Representative Ivy Spoonholtz, and she let me know that one of my team members here was getting a citation. Well, of course, I thought that was pretty scary. And but really what it is one of my staff members have been acknowledged for their ongoing work on changing the narrative around the houseless experience of young people. And it was Heidi Hprs, and she got a legislative citation today for, and she's young, but for 25 years of service and from lived experience brought into it and leadership. And so it was, one, she had to take the day off because it was overwhelming after that point, if you know Heidi, but we were able to surprise her, and her husband was here, and it was just a great recognition of people that really remain engaged in this work, and just love that it happened.
Oh, that's so great. And so congratulations to her, congratulations to your whole team, and thank you again to everyone for all of the work that you do. Moving into the Advisory Council Chair report, since this is our all public biennial meeting, we did not have a work session this morning. So there has not been any updates on committee work or decisions. I do just want to remind everyone, I'm sure you've seen the emails, that it is the annual election time. So there will be information in the chat if you've missed it in the emails, but an opportunity for you to vote on the election of new counselors for our vacant seats. I also want to bring up and remind everyone that we do still have at least one open seat. So if you know anyone who is interested in serving on the Advisory Council, if you yourself are interested in serving on the Advisory Council, let us know. On the ACEH website, you can get to the application. And also anyone would be happy to go offline and talk with you a little bit more about what it means and what the responsibilities are, and share that information with you. Tawny just put in the chat the link to the survey to vote. So if you have not yet voted, please go ahead and click on that. We will have the election open until we announce the results. Handing off to ACEH for the ACEH report. I think that government updates, Meg is unable to join us today, so I don't think there's any federal or state government updates. There is some local updates that are going to be talked about by Taria with the update on the Emergency Shelter Task Force work. So I would toss to ACEH staff if they have anything for government updates. Otherwise, Taria, you're up with the Emergency Shelter Task Force update.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the Emergency Shelter Task Force has been meeting since, seems like yesterday, but since Monday. And so what they are doing is they're really trying to figure out how to problem solve our emergency cold weather shelter plan for single adults. It has been a great representation of many organizations across the Hprs and some of our wonderful community members. Some of the topics that they have discussed are defining what emergency shelter needs are, organizing the work, engagement with community and communications, and brainstorming like locations of where there could be either multiple sites or single site. So that way our neighbors and community members are not experiencing unsheltered homelessness this winter. And this winter, meaning it is now August 25th, and winter is coming very soon. This task force is meeting twice a week. It is a public meeting. As soon as I'm finished talking, I will put in the chat where you can see the recordings. Every single meeting is recorded, and the documents are also put on the ACH website. So you can go there and listen and look at what has happened, and also have the materials. There's been lots of materials that have been shared either through the chat by folks who are involved in the task force, and or by ACH, just trying to make sure that everyone had that same information. Since the task force was voted on by the Assembly during a special session, since then it has been vetoed by the mayor. And so just wanting to make sure that's out there. It's also in the recording. There is a chance for the veto to be overturned, but regardless, the work still needs to happen. One of the things that Meg talked about in the very first meeting is that this work isn't about just right now. It's about looking long-term at what we always have, which is winter and emergency needs for those that are experiencing homelessness. So hopefully this task force will also come out of it some ideas for policy changes and suggestions, along with just a great meeting of the minds and an understanding. So that is the update, and I do see Allison's hand.
Yeah, Taria, I was just going to ask, I noticed that yesterday on the municipal website, there's an application process for the municipality or the health department on a cold weather plan. So would it be fair to say that maybe this work group is going to help then submit an application, or should organizations continue to look at an individual application process? And maybe that's a question that you might need to direct me someplace else, but I'm just curious as to how we're going to be able to bring those two things together.
Right. Actually, it's a question I do have an answer to, because again, we're still working with the families and we have that plan, but this is how we kind of got that information too, which is every individual church is going to have to submit that application to be an emergency shelter site and meet all the requirements in that handbook, or I guess you can call it, in their policies and procedures manual. It's a 9-page document. I can put that also in the chat. So let's say we decide to go back to Sullivan Arena, then that whoever 99+1 Beans Cafe would have to submit that application to the health department along with everything regarding the site. And then the health department would approve, deny, or ask for more information. So no matter what, this task force knows that whoever is putting up multiple or a single site is still going to have to go through this process even after the task force has vetted these things. And the same thing for whoever the health department, the administration states that they have to serve single adults during the winter.
Got it. So great. So meaning that process still has to happen. So we need to get our information in if we intend to increase our capacity or try to help in service of the cold weather. In addition to what we're doing now, we still have to go through that application process.
So I don't know for existing structures, it was pretty clear that it wasn't about existing. I know that they went around and they said that every 2 years you have to be recertified, I guess is the right word, or maybe it's the wrong word. Somebody can help me out. But there has to be a recertification process. So in instance of the churches, because it's been more than 2 years since they have been utilized, then some of those churches would need, all of those churches would need to go through that process.
Got it. Thank you, Tria.
Yeah. And in that policy document, there are numbers and names of people to talk to at the health department to get more information for their process. But it's nice that they put it out there. I will give the link because there's also additional documents there that is on their website under the housing and homelessness section. Jessica, I think that, oh, I did have one more thing, if that's okay. Can I have Grants talk about the SNOFO and NOFO? Or is this not the time?
Oh, no, this is exactly the time. Next was
Great.
going to be either you, Helen, Julie, whoever wanted to talk about that.
We will pass it to the experts.
This is Helen. I think I drew the, I won. I get to talk about the SNOFO and the NOFO. So we are deep into the NOFO cycle right now, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which is the standard yearly HUD funding that comes to the coalition, the Anchorage Coalition, the Continuum of Care. And the project applications are due on Tuesday of next week, which is August 30th. So those project applications for the regular NOFO will be turned in, and then the ACEH staff will start turning its attention to creating the collaborative application, while our partners transition to determining whether or not they're going to send in an application for the special Notice of Funding Opportunity or the SNOFO. So right now, while ACEH starts working on putting together a plan for the collaborative application, there's also work going on in order to develop a plan to treat those with severe service needs and do outreach to those who are currently living unhoused, which is the focus of the SNOFO. If we reach out to you at some point and ask for your assistance or your collaboration as we work on the NOFO collaborative application and the severe service needs plan and the special NOFO collaborative application, please just know that we're doing our best to put those together in a way that best represents our coalition and has the best opportunity to get funding, additional funding in the Anchorage area. One thing that I wanted to bring up is that we will need the Advisory Council's approval on the collaborative applications. So the one for the regular NOFO should be done in time for us to get that approval at the regular September 22nd Advisory Council meeting. So you'll see that on your agenda. The one for the SNOFO collaborative application may not be done by September 22nd, in which case it's possible we may need to ask for a special meeting to be called in order to approve the SNOFO collaborative application, because we have to have that turned into HUD absolutely no later than October 20th, which is prior to the October Advisory Council meeting. Thanks, Jessica.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Helen. If anyone has any questions about the NOFO or the SNOFO, please feel free to unmute and ask, or you can put it in the chat and I can read it out loud if that's more comfortable for you, or you can reach out after the meeting or outside of this channel. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. I will toss back to Connie.
Yeah, so before we move on to the rest of the meeting, one thing that is an operational update of sorts is, as many of you know, we've moved into our new, in February, we moved into our new office location in the Tudor Square Mall. And it's been a very long process of getting the office set up, and we are finally in a place where we're excited to share and open the office to our amazing partners and CoC members and members of the community who would like a chance to visit the office and meet staff we're doing a open house and a ribbon cutting with the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce on September 28th from 4 to 6 p.m. And we'll have food and some refreshments as well, and just an opportunity to see this amazing community space that our grant funders have helped make possible, including Providence, Alaska. They're one of the ones who helped us get this building space. It's actually their space that they found for us. So that's September 28th, 4 to 6 p.m. Many of you may have already received a save the date. We will send out more kind of formal type invitations as the details kind of get finalized, but wanted to let folks know about that and extend the invitation that way.
Thank you, Tawny. I don't know if you saw in the chat, but Julia had a question wondering if Mika is making cheesecake.
You know what? Mika, I don't think is on the call, but I will ask her at the next staff meeting. Maybe if you don't know, Mika's famous for making cheesecake. I think her language of love is cheesecake. Anyway, so yeah, but it'll be a great opportunity to actually see folks in person, and really, if you haven't yet been to one of our new hybrid meetings, because we have a very fancy owl camera. We have a team, we have a training space. It's a training and community meeting space next door to our offices that we'll continue to use for community events, and perhaps even once we may want to transition our advisory council meetings into these meetings into hybrid meetings. So just something, an opportunity to just kind of see what it's all about.
Great, thanks. All right, next on the agenda, we have our annual homeless prevention and response system orientation. I think the slideshow is queued up, and Connie's going to kick us off on it, and then I'll take over.
All right, here we go. Let me pull up the this other screen. Okay, so as some of you may or may not know, my name's Tawny Conti-Segriccia. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration at the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness. I have been, sorry, my phone is apparently vibrating right now. I have been here since February of 2020 or March 2020. My first day at work at the coalition was the first day we went on lockdown. So it was it's been a journey for sure here. And I've helped for a number of years here with during my time here with the helping stand up the advisory council and help with some of the work that they do. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the coalition and sort of our history and how we're involved. I think that's a question that does come up quite frequently because the coalition and the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness is a separate and distinct entity from the Homeless Prevention and Response System Advisory Council. It's a lot of words. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll kind of understand what ACH is and how it's different from the Advisory Council, and what the Continuum of Care is and how we all kind of fit together. And if by the end of this you don't understand, I would encourage you to email our general info email. It's info@hprsadvisorycouncil.org, and let them know you'd like to maybe meet one-on-one and talk with someone, or just continue to come to these monthly meetings because there's always a lot of information here. So ACH, in 2004, ACH formed. It was a loose, in fact, some of the folks on this call today were some of the original founding members of the coalition. I think there was a staff of one, and it was just a coalition of providers who wanted to come together and end homelessness as a group and sort of join efforts. In 2012, we became a formal nonprofit, 501c3, and we incubated with the 4 Acre Group, which is a great nonprofit support agency. And Then, oh, I'm sorry, the first staff person was hired in 2016. And 2017, second staff person, but probably the best thing is you can see by 2021, we hired the 11th staff person. So we grew quite rapidly. And in 2022, I believe as of today, we are up to 14 staff positions, and with the potential to add another 2 in the next 6 months. So the organization has grown rapidly, and Meg Zolotel, who is wasn't able to join us today because of a conflict with another committee that she cannot get out of, unfortunately, today. She was hired to take over as executive director after Jasmine Boyle departed in October of 2020, October 15th, or I'm sorry, yeah, 2021. So it's been a whirlwind of yeah, Roger's shaking his head. It's been a whirlwind of the last 9 months. So thank you all of you for being here today. We appreciate that you're continuing to see the importance of the mission to make homelessness in Anchorage rare, brief, and one time. So really briefly, and this is sort of our org chart here at the coalition. And if you come to the open house or you work with us, you've probably either seen an email from us or worked with us in a meeting. But we, on the left side of the screen, is sort of our programmatic. We all do programmatic work from the top down, sort of a reality of this nonprofit work that we do. But sort of more heavily focused programmatically is on the left side of the screen with Taria Ware, Celia McLeod. They are sort of leading our programs and system-wide work. And I'm not going to go through all of the names here, but I do want to recognize that we have a lot of really hardworking staff and team members who are all equally dedicated to carrying out the mission critical work that we do here at the coalition, and day in and day out. And I have a special appreciation for each and every one of them, because this work, as many of you know, is really hard. And it's been really hard the last 2.5 years, and it feels like it's still really hard. And just like the staff, you know, we've had amazing staff that has departed our organization in just the time that I've been here, and we have new staff that joined us. So, you know, we just have quite a legacy of amazing people who have seen the importance of the mission, and certainly those folks who are on the call today feel the same way. So if there are more questions about staff, or if you want to meet with someone that you see on the screen, you can always email our general info email. It's secretary@ach.org. That's kind of the email that we just kind of collect just any random questions or member community requests for the coalition itself. So feel free to email that, secretary@ach.org, and we can connect you to someone who might be on the screen here. So the last thing I want to talk about before I hand it over to Jessica is just the overall governance structure. In 2019, prior to 2020, the coalition actually was made up of just the advisory council board. It served as both the board of director and the advisory council for the homeless prevention and response system. And in November 2019, it was bifurcated because we really wanted to sort of stand up very distinct entities and make sure that we had a group of board members who were really looking closely at just the everyday business of our organization. So that's part of what I did when I came on. So we have an ACH board of directors, just like a traditional board of directors for a nonprofit or other organization. It recently it's expanded twice now as we've expanded, and it's now up to 15 board members can serve. We are in the recruitment phase for the additional members. Right now we have a board of 9. So we have some open seats. You know, we look at the organizational focus, strategic planning, just general governance, financial management, some high level advocacy work, and including funding and policy advocacy. So if you think you might be interested, you're welcome to email us at that secretary inbox email, which Emily, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. But that's definitely more of a business board of directors. And then once we got the business out of the way, the advisory council really was able to stand up in its power and authority within the HUD interim rule and really focus on the work of the continuum of care and the community prioritization lists, redesigning coordinated entry, which is how folks get into the system and then get into housing, essentially flows into housing. They look at HMI, our homeless management information system, governance, that's another thing they cover. And of course, Built for Zero, which is getting to essentially zero inflow, outflow of people experiencing homelessness each month. So that right now has 20 members, individual members. We'll talk more about what a member means, but that's what you're actually voting on. So hopefully if you haven't voted, you're voting because we had 3 open seats. And then finally, it flows into the CoC membership, and the CoC is the Continuum of Care membership. And that is all the folks who kind of are within the CoC, and there's a slide for it, but volunteers and partners and providers and members of the community, and also members of the coalition who are joining the coalition separately are also members of the CoC. So we'll talk about that here next, but I want to just pause there before we transition. I think I'll just put the next slide on, but probably won't really talk about it. But if there is any questions before I hand it over to Jessica about the coalition and sort of the intersection of our work within the CoC and the advisory council. No. Well, one thing I will say, and Jessica, I'm going to stop the share so you can share the PowerPoint from your end because of the message earlier. But one thing I will say is that something that's important to note is that the coalition, that the advisory council is its own entity. The voice, the decisions that are made by the advisory council, they are the true governing body of the Continuum of Care for Anchorage. The Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness and our staff, we do support work, and we work in partnership and collaboration with the advisory council, and we help with committee work as needed. And there's a slide coming up where it will point you to where you can find the governance charter, because I would say if you are more interested in kind of learning more about the specific details, definitely read the governance charter. It's pretty informative document and can really help you understand the kind of intersection of some of this work. And if not, we want to start doing lunch and learns in the future. So we might have some hybrid lunch and learns at our office and talk about different topics that come up. So again, feel free to let us know what you want to learn about, and we are here to bring that knowledge to the community. So Jessica, I will hand it to you.
All right, let me get to the right screen. All right, hopefully you are now seeing the next slide in the PowerPoint. All right, seeing some nods. All right, so thanks, Tawny. Tawny talked a little bit about the coalition and the coalition's role as a convener in the HPRS. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the HPRS Advisory Council and what our responsibility and role is. So the HPRS is the community planning body for the homeless prevention and response system. So we're a local network. We plan, coordinate funding for services and housing to assist those that are at risk and homeless individuals and families. And as Tawny said, reading through the governance charter is really helpful. It details a lot of the functions of our CoC committees, the roles, the resource roles, how we amend that charter, and then also the code of conduct, recusal process, all of that. The advisory council is considered the subject matter experts. So those seats are service providers, they're victim services, faith-based, state and local governments. There's a wide range of experience that sits on the advisory council, and HUD has some regulations around who should be part of that and who should be sitting at that table. There's no term limits on the seats, but the seats are reviewed annually by the, oh, that should not say by the ACH board, but they're reviewed annually by the advisory council, and then we vote for new members, which is what's happening right now. There is one designated seat, and that is to ensure that there is always someone who is homeless or formerly homeless on the advisory council. And some typically underrepresented sectors tend to be schools and universities, hospitals, law enforcement, and veterans. So when you fill out the application for an advisory council seat, it does ask some questions if you are representative of any of those sectors, so that we can ensure that we do get the right mix of people on the advisory council. So this is our current roster. That is listing out everybody. So as you can see, we had 3 vacancies coming into this election cycle. Oh, I see Tawny has her hand.
I'll let you finish, and then I just wanted to touch on that last slide.
Oh, okay. I can go backwards too. So this is our current roster right now. We have 3 vacancies. We had 2 applications submitted in the most recent recruitment. So that's what people were voting on, were to either approve or not approve those 2 individuals into seats. That does leave at least 1 vacancy still, depending on the results of that. So I do encourage anyone who is on this call, watching this video later, or anyone that you know that you think might be interested in serving on the advisory council to fill out an application. You need me to go back a slide, Tony?
Yeah. And you can find a copy of the application at hprsadvisorycouncil.org. So one thing I just want to point out is that for folks who may have lived experience, we currently or recently in the past, especially HUD and the coalition has made, the council has made it a priority to find more ways to engage and support those folks to join as counselors and participate in committee meetings, and to have their voice not only be heard, but to have a seat at the table. And if you have concerns about ability, you have an interest in joining and becoming an advisory council member or participating in a committee, and you have concerns about the ability to join via technology or in person due to your current circumstances, we encourage you to reach out to the email that's in the chat, and let folks know about your interest, and we will work together to figure out how to facilitate the experience to the very best of our ability to make sure that your voice is heard. So I wanted to make sure that we took a moment to emphasize the importance of that. And we don't publicize it, but we do have some folks who are on the council now who have past lived experience. But again, for those who are currently experiencing homelessness, that's an area we're really looking to find more participation in this experience. And hopefully I covered that pretty well. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Bonnie. All right, so this graphic shows the outline of the Anchorage homeless prevention and response system right now. So our advisory council goal is to help Anchorage build a full continuum of evidence-based, cost-effective interventions. And this goes all the way from homeless prevention and diversion programs into permanent housing, options of supportive housing and rapid rehousing, and everything in between there. So just noting that all of those programs exist on that continuum, and they're all backed by the infrastructure and backbone of the advisory council and the support of ACH. As Tawny mentioned, the Homeless Prevention and Response System Advisory Council has 4 committees. We have the Community Prioritization Committee, the Compliance Committee, the Data Committee, and a Coordinated Entry Committee. And I would invite the staff members who are the committee leads to go ahead and unmute and tell us a little bit about the committee's work. And then I would invite anybody on this call who is not part of one of these committees, but is interested in serving on one or hearing more information, to reach out and let us know. And we can make sure to get you connected with the advisory council committee chair or the staff member who oversees the work. So we'll just start at the top with community prioritization.
I think that's Dakota.
And
Yeah.
I lost my list when I started sharing my screen, so I'm not sure
No.
if Dakota's on.
And I just got a chat. She's on. Let me see if I can get her. She said she was having technical difficulties and asked to unmute herself. She said she couldn't do that. Maybe we could come back.
Yep, we'll
To
skip
Dakota.
that.
Dakota, just
We'll come
maybe-
back to community prioritization. Compliance,
meeting and
is
rejoin.
Helen wanted to talk.
So the compliance committee works on making sure that our continuum of care is in compliance with HUD and all of the HUD regulations, since they're the ones who actually designate the continuums of care. So we look at policies and procedures, written standards, those governance documents that had been addressed on an earlier slide. They make sure that the continuum itself is in compliance. And then that's also the group from which we draw the review and rank committee that looks at all project applications and scores them and then ranks them for the notice of funding opportunity cycles. It'll be for both of the NOFO and the SNOFO this year. So that's kind of, so if you like to dig down into the down and dirty details and you find HUD to be compelling reading material, then compliance is for you.
Thanks, Helen. And on the advisory council, the work of the compliance committee is overseen by Sid McCausland. So if you're interested in serving, please reach out and let us know. Moving on to the data committee, the ACH staff, Celia is on leave right now, but Sharon is the advisory council committee chair, and she graciously volunteered to talk a little bit about the data committee.
All right, thank you, Jessica. So in addition to what's listed there, well, we actually don't do some of the things that are on that list. We do have some members who are on the AKHMIS advisory board, which is sort of a state level committee, but that's not a specific function of this committee. It's just fortunate that we have some members who overlap. And in terms of oversight of HMIS data, we do sort of a quarterly review of data quality. So we just did that a couple of weeks ago. So we look at things like basically what agencies and projects are doing well in terms of hitting all the universal data elements that are required in the HMIS. It's a homeless management information system. And then ones who aren't. And last time we discussed a kind of strategy to to try to assist those agencies get, do a little better with their data entry. The main purpose of the data committee is actually to explore questions related to the homeless prevention and response system in Anchorage, and how those can be, answers to those can be leveraged using data. So right now we're initiating a study looking at rapid rehousing, and so I'd encourage people to join this committee. You don't necessarily need to be skilled at data analysis, but it would be good if you had like a scientific mindset, and you can think of research questions and ways to explore those, and what kinds of data would be needed to answer those questions. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me, or if that's adequate explanation of the committee, but come one, come all. The more folks we have there, the better.
Oh, thanks, Sharon. And anyone who has questions, feel free. You can put them in chat. You can raise your hand. You can just unmute and ask. We're pretty casual. Moving to coordinated entry, that would be Mac. And again, I can't see my list of participants right now.
Hey, yeah, it's myself, Mac Lyons, Anchorage Coalition Homelessness, and Julia Terry. And this is the coordinated entry committee is to simply just to make sure that we are evolving with the times, is to make sure that we're keeping everything equitable. We want to hear from our partners. We want to hear what's working, what is not working, what is what could be good ways to implement new things. Because if I was just here and just became like a dictator and just decided to just make these changes by myself, I might completely overlook something or not even notice, like I wouldn't have thought of things. So it's a great way to just make sure that we're checking all angles and making sure everyone is every aspect is being considered when going into these coordinated entry changes. So it's very interesting work.
And can I just add that once the coordinated entry revamp is completed, we are going to have a special presentation on that. So it's important, if you don't already get our weekly digest, to make sure you do get that and keep your eye out. Otherwise, just come to the meetings. I think that should be coming up here in the near future, hopefully.
All right, thanks, Mac. And from the advisory council side, Mac did mention Julia is our advisory council chair of the coordinated entry committee. Moving back to community prioritization, sounds like Katie, who is our advisory council committee chair, is going to talk about that work.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. The two main charges of our committee, one is the gap analysis, annual kind of data process to understand gaps in the current system. So what is the demand for different housing interventions? What is the supply we have? And then where are there gaps within it? And so that's one piece of the work. And then the other, which is included in the bubble there, is about creating annual community priorities based on the data in the gap analysis and a prioritization process through the committee. So those are kind of the two big pieces of work we take on. I think that's it, unless there are questions.
I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Katie. And again, anyone who's interested in serving on any of these committees or finding out more information, just reach out and let us know. Moving to discussion about the Continuum of Care, otherwise known or referenced as the CoC. So like I shared in the other slide, the HUD Continuum of Care is a continuum of resources. So it starts with homeless prevention, and then through outreach, intake, and assessment work, you're able to move people through to emergency shelter, to transitional housing, or to permanent supportive housing with those wraparound supportive services as part of that. And then we do have people who move into permanent affordable housing as well as part of that whole continuum. Who makes up the CoC? So a CoC includes any provider that is within the CoC geographic area. The geographic area for our CoC is Anchorage. Alaska has two CoCs. One is Anchorage, one is everywhere that is not Anchorage. And you'll hear it called the balance of state, or the BOS. So our CoC is the geographic area of Anchorage. And so again, it includes nonprofit providers, victim service providers, anyone who is working with people experiencing homelessness in housing, and homeless or formerly homeless individuals. The CoC is representative of the entire system, not just the HUD-funded agencies. A lot of people believe that if you don't get a HUD grant, then you're not part of the CoC, and that is not true. And then we are required to hold at least 2 all CoC-wide public meetings per year. But what we do in our CoC is hold monthly meetings that are open to the public. And we have a rotation of special presentations that will come. And those meetings are held on the 4th Thursday of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. And just a note that November and December, because Thanksgiving is always on the 4th Thursday, that one is always moved to the 3rd Thursday, and the same for the December meeting.
And it is the same Zoom meeting link every month.
Yes.
So
Yep.
even if you don't have a calendar invite from us, it's online, it's in our website, it's in our newsletter. And also we just encourage folks to put it on your own calendar and copy and paste that Zoom link and meeting info.
So the CoC membership is entitled to vote at meetings of the members on issues that are brought by the advisory council to the membership. You're entitled to vote for advisory council seats. Again, in the chat, there is a link to that voting, and there's been a few reminder emails that have been sent out that are linking to that survey. Always invited to listen and provide public comments to each advisory council meeting. So on that 4th Thursday, when we hold those public meetings, there's always an opportunity for comments and questions. Open to participate on committees and work groups. As we just talked about, some of our committee work is really exciting work. And even if you're not able to make the commitment to an advisory council seat, you can absolutely serve on a committee or work group and help out with that work. And then ACH offers support and technical assistance through organization of communities of practice and the homeless response system work. So providing the administrative oversight and coordination of coordinated entry and HMIS work, providing shelter, outreach, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing support, and then also advocacy and fundraising. There's 3 core roles of a CoC. There's an operational role, which is the oversight by the advisory council, which is the CoC board, that oversees the coordinated assessment and coordinated entry work, these convenings of the membership, and then providing monitoring and evaluation of the Hprs. There's a planning role, which is, we're right in the middle of it now, submitting the annual, now renamed the NOFO, Notice of Funding Opportunity, and then performing the gap analysis and community education, and then overseeing the point in time count and housing inventory count for the CoC. ACH is our Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS lead. As a CoC, we're responsible for designating an HMIS lead, and they oversee the HMIS database for all providers across Alaska. And our contractor that does that HMIS work for us is ICA. This is just a different graphic talking about those various roles of the continuum of care. So as you can see, it goes from community-wide planning, coordinating and integration with mainstream resources, looking at improvements to data collection and performance management systems, and then optimizing self-sufficiency among individuals and families experiencing homelessness. Looking at our homeless prevention and response system, we have a range of services from safety net services all the way to permanent housing and supports. And there's a role for everyone within that continuum and system. We also leverage all of our services across the CoC. So you'll see lots of coordination with programs that are adjacent, like the 211 system. We have multiple providers that participate in our outreach and reentry services, a multitude of case management services that all end up leveraging that support across the different programs. And then, of course, all of our affordable housing partners here in the city. This slide is just a brief coordinated entry 101. So coordinated entry aims to prioritize the most vulnerable for the limited services that exist. We know that there is a gap in the services that are available and the need of individuals experiencing homelessness. So using the coordinated entry system allows us to streamline that experience for both the people who need the assistance and the providers that can provide the assistance. And then also provides us data to allow informed decisions regarding capacity and demand. And I'm just going to read this sentence here. The coordinated entry system assumes that there is not enough housing and support resources for all of the vulnerable in a community. So the goal is to use a defined CoC homeless prevention and response system priorities to identify the most vulnerable that are unlikely to self-resolve and provide those additional supports to them. So coordinated entry in Anchorage began in January of 2017, and it's, as people have mentioned, currently being revamped, and look for invitations to some presentations when that revitalization of coordinated entry is complete. But it starts right now with a referral from the community, and that can come from an outreach worker encountering someone experiencing homelessness on the street. It can come through schools. It can come through a referral from another organization, or it can come from a clinic. So the first step is to meet and have an assessment to determine the need of that person who's experiencing homelessness. And then the level of vulnerability will be determined from there. We then do a prioritization on a by name list. And then as resources become available, we match people with the appropriate housing. And there's different types of housing that might come from this path. There's permanent supportive housing options. Some people are matched with rapid rehousing, employment, other supports, and then some people will self-resolve. The Alaska HMIS is our homeless management information system, and you'll hear it called AKHMIS for short. But this is the database that we use in the state of Alaska to collect that data for housing and services that are being provided to individuals and families that are either at risk or currently experiencing homelessness. And this data is used for a lot of different things. So at the base, it's used for that day-to-day case management. So assessing the needs and services for that client and improving the services that you're providing to them. We can use that data to analyze and evaluate how organizations can better meet the needs of people with unstable housing. We use that data to connect people with housing services, shelter services. We can do those referrals within the system. And then that data helps us when we're applying for local, state, and federal funding, both at the CoC level, like we're doing right now with the HUD NOFO, as well as individual organizations having access to that data for their organization and their services for additional funding to support the work. And then last, but certainly not least, that data helps us implement change. So we're able to use that data to inform policy change at local, state, and federal levels. Gap analysis and community prioritization. So this is going to talk about some past work, knowing that we are working right now on the next iteration of Anchored Home, which is our community strategic plan for ending homelessness, and on a new gap analysis and prioritization. But this is going to talk a little bit about that process. So the advisory council started with a gap analysis, and we looked at our data to get a good picture of what the capacity is, and then what the supply and demand, and then identified where those gaps were. Next, the group would go through a prioritization process and start ranking those interventions so that we address those gaps and make the correct recommendations for the upcoming year, upcoming time period. So these are our 2021 priorities. Single adults accounted for the largest portion of unmet need across the system and face sizable gaps across all levels of vulnerability. So you see that number there, 65%. Recognizing that there's a significant lack of rapid rehousing and supportive housing services that are available for single adults. And then last, we just heard the update earlier in this meeting. A 2021 priority was ensuring that sufficient day and night shelter capacity, especially during the winter. That's critical for public health and safety. And so I think we have an opportunity now to reevaluate what that data is telling us and ensuring that we are allocating the funds in the most effective way, and also creating better long-term outcomes for the individuals, for the community. So in 2021, our system takeaways, there is a gap for every population. There is not one population experiencing homelessness that has sufficient services to meet the need. And we know that those gaps are going to continue to grow if we don't increase the capacity of our system. We also know there's a cost to doing nothing, that you don't save money by not responding to needs. We have noted that we've been able to increase infrastructure and allow for some of the systems building, so we have to maintain that. And then also expanding that outreach service so that we're able to make those connections faster and more effectively. And last, recognizing that incarceration makes someone 10 times more likely to experience homelessness. So I'm going to pause. If anyone has any questions or comments and wants to share, please go ahead. You can unmute, you can raise your hand, you can type in the chat, however you'd like to ask a question or share a comment. All right, well, I'm not seeing any. I don't have anyone who signed up for any member or public comment. I'm going to stop sharing and let Emily have the screen back.
Stand by just a moment. I'm bringing it back up.
That's okay. All right, well, I will jump ahead then, and I'm going to talk about our election results. And I'm skimming through my list to see who's on, but I did just want to share that both nominees, both applicants were elected to the advisory council. Yay! So I want to congratulate and welcome Andy Nestor with the Anchorage Health Department. I'm looking, where am I? Looking down my list to see who, seeing if our new counselors are on. If not, we will welcome them at our next meeting. Sorry, I had to get to my other list. I don't see her on. And then our second new counselor that was elected is Robin Dempsey with CSS. So I'm super excited to welcome both of them to our advisory council. And then again, just also share, we do have one vacant seat left. So if anyone else is interested and wants to put in an application, please feel free to do that. We are always looking to fill all of our vacant seats. All right, we are whipping through. I do want to share that if you go out to, let me share it in the chat. If you go out to the ACH website, they do have a section. The right way. They do have a section where you're able to watch the recordings of all of the previous meetings. And one of the meetings that I just want to make sure I share that is at the YouTube link that I shared is the orientation meeting that we held in January. So we used a lot of the same PowerPoint slides, but there are always different things shared in that. And it's all really relevant information still. So if anyone is interested, you can go out to that YouTube page and you can watch the last time we did this orientation with the group.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that information. And a copy of this recording will also be uploaded to our YouTube page and shared in the weekly digest and the follow-up emails. So if you want to share this recording with folks in your office or coworkers or new hires so that they understand when they join your organization what this is all about, this is a great resource. And also if you know anybody who you think might be a great fit for the advisory council, this is also a really great resource to share with them. So it's all the same places to go, the YouTube channel and then the website.
Thanks, Connie. All right, moving to good news and community events. If anyone has anything that they'd like to share, Connie talked about the ribbon cutting for the new offices for ACH. So that is definitely a good news community event to share. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? All right. Well, Emily, if you want to switch to the slide with the upcoming advocacy opportunities, we can talk about.
Jessica, I do not have that slide. I apologize.
That's okay.
I did not have that ready. I apologize.
Let me see if I do. Bear with me for just a moment. I do not, but I can run through them really quickly without actual dates. And if you are interested in the actual dates, let me know. Upcoming advocacy opportunities are, of course, our regular assembly meetings, which are held twice per month from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. or later if they are extended. Those are held at Assembly Chambers down at the Lusac Library. And if you go to muni.gov, you can access the agenda and also a YouTube streaming link if you'd like to watch it online versus going down in person. On the first Wednesday of every month, the Housing, Homeless, and Neighborhood Development, or HAND Commission, holds their monthly meetings, and those are from 4 to 5:30. They're available via Teams and also in person down at the health department offices in their conference room. And then the Anchorage Assemblies Committee on Housing and Homelessness meets monthly on the third Wednesday of every month. So they'll be having a meeting in September. And again, you can also find that information on muni.gov. If you click on Assembly and then Committees, you can scroll to the Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting and see their agenda and any of the supplemental documents for that. Those are typically held in person down at Assembly chambers, or you can participate via teleconference. And I would invite anyone who has anything that they want to make sure they share. I would invite them to do that now.
This is Tani again. I would say one thing that we actually have missed on these advocacy opportunities is just simply writing letters into the Anchorage Daily News, letter to the editors, as well as letters to your public officials and state senators, House of Representatives on the issue of housing and homelessness. And your voice also matters. The more folks that we have expressing the importance of the issues around homelessness and housing here in Anchorage and Alaska, that's the point of the collective voice, both from the advisory council perspective, but also the coalition to end homelessness. So that is really important. And Owen Hutchinson, I don't think he's on, he's our Director of External Relations, is a great resource if you want to meet with him. And his email's ohutchinson@ach.org. You can reach out to him and learn more about sort of the external relations and housing trust issues, and ask how you can be a better advocate as well.
Sure, and I've got an update too, Jessica.
Yes.
So I just wanted to let folks that the ongoing efforts at Centennial Camp continue, that we have a Facebook page at Centennial Park Campers. And though I'll be taking a leave from there next week, it looks like for a few days for some personal time. Folks are welcome to keep track of what's going on there and check in. We also do have a bulletin board if anyone needs to put up a bulletin to those folks and their phone numbers, whatever. And appreciate all the support we've gotten so far, and look forward to how we're going to solve this problem as we move into the cold weather. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you for sharing that. I am part of that Facebook group, and I will share that it's a great source of information on what's going on day to day, and if there are any really emergent needs that come up down at the campground.
Thank you.
And I see Connie has her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Jessica. Roger just reminded me, and I don't think Ryan is on, but I'm driving, so I'm not going to look at the participation list. But he did what he said, reminded me about cold as we move into the colder weather. We did put out a call, and if Sasha or anybody else from the team is on, they're welcome to jump in. But we did put out a email blast call for donations, warm weather donations, to be coordinated with Ryan Chernikoff, who's our outreach coordinator. And we'll make sure to put it's just his first initial last name at ach.org. But if you were looking for jackets, blankets, and other things, in addition to what folks are donating to Salvation Army, because while Salvation Army is down at Centennial, Ryan helps coordinate with Dakota, Orm, the rest of the outreach for folks experiencing homelessness, who may be at Centennial, but many folks are also not in Centennial. They may be along the Greenbelt trails or in other areas. So if you get our emails, please check the one that I think went out yesterday for more information on what we need. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Connie. And the other big question mark out there is whether or not Salvation Army will be around after September 15th or the 30th. We really haven't got a solid answer on that. And we do not know what the disposition of those goods would be. It'd be very, very, it would seem very appropriate for whatever the disposition of leftover goods are, comes back to the coalition, to the ACAH itself. Of course, that assumes you can handle that stuff. And so there are some question marks around that. And I believe the Salvation Army will do the right thing, but they're channeling through an administration that hasn't always been friendly. hopefully comes around. And I don't want to belabor that, but it's just been a challenging time. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Roger. And I was skimming down the list to see if I saw anyone from Salvation Army, but I would encourage you, if you have questions or if you are a service provider and are interested in utilizing the Salvation Army space down there to be able to meet with clients at Centennial Park, please reach out to Captain Delgado, Denise Delgado at the Salvation Army, and they can help make that arrangement for you. They do have an office Connex out there that they have made available to service providers to be able to have private meetings with any clients that are currently staying at Centennial Campground.
Yeah, and I want to make clear that Salvation Army has been awesome down there. They're operating in some constraints that are very challenging, but they're hooking up our folks with unique solutions that not everybody else can get, and they're to what I can see, they're coordinating with everybody. So I appreciate them very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, well, we are going to wrap up a little bit early here. I did put a message in the chat, and it is our agenda item number 11, but I would ask that any of the advisory council members that are able to just stay on for a little while for a brief executive session, but otherwise, to everyone else who joined us today, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next month if we don't see you before then.